Alrighty, so now we're going to look at muscle tissue. So just to recap, there are 4 types of tissue. Histology is the study of tissue. The 4 types of tissue are connective tissue, epithelial tissue, muscle tissue, which we call muscle fibers, and nervous tissue. Okay? So right now we're looking at muscles. There are 3 types of muscle tissue: skeletal muscle tissue, smooth muscle tissue, cardiac muscle tissue. Okay, again, tissue, anyway, we'll move on. But I want us to look at this at multiple magnification. With skeletal muscle tissue, what you're going to see is a very striated, ropey appearance, very, very tightly organized. I hear students say sometimes that skeletal muscle tissue looks like dense, regular connective tissue, and I say nay, no, it does not. Skeletal muscle tissue, you're going to see multiple nuclei. Okay, when you're looking at dense, regular connective tissue, you tend to see very sparse nuclei, and that's because those are the nuclei of fibroblast. Okay, so let's up the magnification over here. Oh, I gotta turn this part here off. There we go. So let's up the magnification. So look, even as the magnification goes up, look at all of that, all those nuclei. You see that? All these purple dots. You also see a banding pattern going this way, right? Left to right. So that ropey appearance is absolutely evidence that you are looking at skeletal muscle tissue. Something else for you to focus on would be which of the muscle tissues are voluntary and which are involuntary. Skeletal muscle is something like a bicep, rectus abdominis, a tricep, lats, your quads. Those are skeletal muscles, and those are voluntary. You can move those. Smooth muscle, you cannot move it, okay? So again, let's turn those labels on. Here, look at all the striations, yep, and look at, this is the individual muscle fiber. We use muscle fiber for the cells, and then the nuclei, multiple nuclei over here. And we'll move on. This is an even closer image. This is 1200 times magnification of skeletal muscle. So now you can definitely see those striations, those bands, and you see the nuclei everywhere. Over here, you see skeletal muscle in a cross section over here, and also in a longitudinal section. But even in cross section, you can see this very, very tightly organized arrangement of the fascicles. Which is telltale that you're looking at skeletal muscle. It's very, very organized. Some even more skeletal muscle. This is at 1000 times magnification. Again, note the nuclei. So when you, I strongly encourage you to look at this, and then also go back and look at the dense regular, because I have heard before people say it looks the same. No, it does not. You will not see all of this abundance of nuclei. You might see like sparse nuclei, and that's because you're looking at the fibroblast cells. And then even more skeletal muscle fiber. Now we're going to look at cardiac muscle cells. We're in a bit of a lower magnification. So with this, you do see a striated-like appearance. It's not as tightly organized as the skeletal muscle, but as we get that magnification up, you're going to see a feature that you will only find in the skeletal muscle cells, and that would be these, the intercalated disc. So if you look, see that dark purple line, dark purple line, dark purple line, a bunch of nuclei, but this dark purple line everywhere is not a fluke. It's not a mistake on the slide. Those are the intercalated discs. So those you only find on cardiac muscle cells. So once you see that, you know you are in business for cardiac muscle tissue, which is involuntary. You do not tell your heart to beat, okay? The heart does what it wants. So over here, more intercalated disc, but you can see the striations being very similar to the skeletal muscle. What the skeletal muscle does not have would be these bands, those intercalated discs. So even more cardiac muscle cells, more of these bands, the intercalated disc. And then over here, we are now switching to our third category, which is the duodenum. So the duodenum is a part of the small intestine. The small intestine has 3 sections. You have the duodenum, the jejunum, and the ileum. So this is the duodenum, that first section, which is attached to the stomach. Okay, so over here, you have a circular layer of smooth muscle and a longitudinal layer. We're going to zoom in so you can see the difference in this organizational pattern. Notice it's not as tightly organized as the skeletal muscle, and it's not as tightly organized as the cardiac muscle. It's very, very wavy, okay? So see here, not as organized, very, very, very wavy. Lots of nuclei though, right? But very, very wavy. So what I've heard this compared to is the dense, irregular connective tissue. So one more time, this is not connective tissue because of the abundance of nuclei. All of these nuclei here, even though it looks a little bit disorganized like the dense, irregular connective tissue, all of these nuclei say nay. They say nay. This is not connective tissue. This is muscle tissue, okay? And all of the, even though it's a bit disorganized here, I see all of the nuclei, so I know that I'm in business with muscle. So even more smooth muscle. This is more of the duodenum, or duodenum, as I've heard it called. And over here, higher magnification, and you could also see the nuclei, these long, flat nuclei, as a telltale sign too. All right, that is it.